We shouldn't even have to fucking have a fight about civil rights. And I got that in my fucking notes here.
Mhm.
The fucking
Yeah.
Democrats gave up and fucking shot themselves in the foot all because a bunch of fucking bitch ass white people in the South couldn't handle black people getting the equal rights.
Yeah. I mean,
And
there's
they walked
definitely.
away.
Go ahead.
I was just saying they walked away from a fucking they had in the 40s and 50s, and I meant to look this up, and I did not what the tax breakdowns were, but I know the top tax tier brackets or tax tier rates were extremely fucking high, extremely fucking high, and the only people that didn't like it were those goddamn long term businesses that have been around forever.
Mhm.
But otherwise, life was good financially for everybody. But white people were so fucking frail about black people getting fucking equal rights that they said, fuck it, I'd rather be poor. I'd rather not have shit and give everything to the fucking wealthiest than to let black people have fucking equal rights.
Yeah. I feel like maybe there's some of that, but I feel like that's letting the powerful off the hook too much. I think that Democrats definitely did their fair share since the 60s of just handing over their power to corporations, to, the wealthy class, basically.
Oh, I agree with you, and
Um,
but that goes back to my point earlier about the only people that wanted things to change as far as the way the financial system was set up in our country were those major corporations that have been around forever.
yeah. Right, but it was the liberal politicians that allowed like these tax rates to go the way they went. It was these liberal politicians that are totally responsible for pushing neoliberalism on the rest of the country.
Okay, hold
And
on. Are
seeing
we
our jobs
recording
go
yet?
overseas. Yes.
Okay, because we haven't introduced it.
Yeah, I figure let's just keep going because like I
Okay.
feel like we're so far into it. But I really just I don't know. I just felt the need to just come to you completely honest and authentic about where I'm at right now. And so anyway,
That's cool.
but uh just to say that like okay, like I'm struggling with a couple of things here. One is the left. First of all, how that's defined in our country is just that's like the number one thing that drives me absolutely insane because the truth is we don't have a left in this country. Like if you want to go by like especially in terms of like economics, yeah, no, there's no left that exists in this country. Um and so because of that, the left has done nothing but concern itself with culture war issues. And I'm not trying to say that racism and all the isms don't exist and that they're not a problem. They are, but they exist because of the economic structure that we live under.
Okay, do
Like,
me a favor. Do me a favor. We talk about education all the time. Go into detail about that because again, when you look at and we talked about it last episode, when you look at that town outside of Nashville, that is a very, very well-to-do fucking pretty much white town where they're leaning heavily. It's the one that had the female lady running for, I think, mayor of the area, and or maybe she was running for governor, and she had Nazis like supporting her, and she wasn't backing down or saying that she, didn't disagree with them or anything. Do you remember that?
oh, the Franklin mayor lady.
Yeah, that.
Okay, can you repeat your question? I totally got
So
distracted by something on my screen.
you're fine. So I guess ultimately my question is to explain go into more detail about what you're talking about with the financial structure of our country driving those isms because you've got
Right.
Franklin, which is a very affluent white community, but they are going hard on the Nazism, the racism, all that fucking shit. And yes, the are the Democrats guilty for all the cultural war bullshit? Yes, what they're more guilty of is always being horribly fucking reactionary. But the right is the American right in this country, and let's be honest, the American left in our country, as we know it, is on the right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're defining left and right politics by the financial left and right, then the American left, Joe Biden is on the right. Kamala
Mm-hmm.
Harris is on the right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You got Biden or you got Trump who's even further right, and then there's a bunch of motherfuckers further right than that. But when you talk about economics and economic politics, you've got that little area outside of Nashville where there's all these affluent people, and there's even people like that fucking financial guru. What's his goddamn name? Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey.
He's all into that shit, and that's his area. That's where he's from and lives. And he drives it just as much as anybody. He drives those racial issues. He drives that culture war bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And if it is a financial issue, why do these wealthy people drive it? Why does Trump drive it?
Power. They want to hold on to power. They want to hold on to their capital, to their to the system that they have benefited from. Right.
I agree with that. But are you saying that if we were looking at if he was being completely honest, that he's not really racist, he's just using that tool to keep power?
I don't know what's in the head and heart of Dave Ramsey, so I don't feel like I should really speak to that. However, Trump, the thing is like, I don't want you to think that I'm saying there's no such thing as racism and things like that, and that it wouldn't exist without. What I'm saying is that the class structure that we live under inevitably intertwines with racism and all the isms, because the fact of the matter is like, at the end of the day, it all boils down to power, right? Like economic power, material conditions. Okay. And so you have the wealthier class of people that understand they are on the top, and that in order for them to remain on the top in a democratic world, they have to have a healthy section of the country, like supporting them, right? That, like, a healthy number. And so that's why they turn to culture war issues to remain on top. Are they also racist? Probably to their core. Yes. Yes, but again, you can't separate it out from the fact that they're at the top of the power structure either. Right?
You can, maybe not for them, but for the people on the bottom. And they're on the bottom, and they are so caught up. And again, this goes back to the 60s. Up until 63 to 69, I believe it was, whenever the Civil Rights Act was passed, but it was in 63 is when the Democrats started losing their power, and the financial structure really started to change then. Because when you go back to FDR and coming out of the Great Depression, the financial structure was not then what it is now. But you come out of the civil rights movement, and literally ANES, so the American National Election Survey polling data, examining more than a dozen questions, authors found no evidence that white Southern voters were more conservative on non-racial policy issues before 1963. If anything, they were slightly to the left of white voters elsewhere on domestic issues. But racial ideology in the U.S. played such an outsized role in American politics then that they fuck it, I'd rather be poor than to let black people have equal rights. And these are people that didn't have power. These are people that didn't have money. These are everyday, ordinary people of the South.
Right.
And they said, fuck it. Let me be poor. Just don't make my daughter go to school with another black person or with a black person.
when you say that, what comes to mind for me is like, okay, coming out of the 60s, one thing we don't talk about enough when it comes to the civil rights movement, like we remember it now as this entirely social, like identitarian thing where, you know, different groups of people were finally getting equal rights with other, you know, parts of society, right? But what is left out of the conversation is that the civil rights did not exist without an economic program backing it up, right? Like Martin Luther King was all about, like, he understood that you'll never have total equality without like some sort of universal economic program or thing that levels the playing field for everyone. Like he understood that we can't forget like poor whites, like we can't entirely focus the conversation on identity. There has to be an economic component driving the larger issue, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we don't talk about that though. Like when we talk about this, when I say we, I don't mean us specifically. I mean just like in general, you often hear the economic component left out of the conversation about civil rights. And the
Yes.
reason for that is because after the 60s in academia, there was this like sea change in terms of like, you know, philosophy and politics and all that sort of thing, to where, you know, and it also coincides with the dawning of neoliberalism, and that is like this idea that like, you know, everything's about identity now.